to the metal when I'm getting to the bag, ayy. Got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast, ayy. Let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss, ayy.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I do say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do, or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Friday, everybody. I got a very special guest for you guys here today. It's been a while since he's been on the show. And, you know, I look at with where everything is in the industry, you know, tech-wise, and, you know, building out the infrastructure of your company. Where do you turn? Like, who are the right providers? Do you even need this? Because, you know, sales reps are very, very convincing out there. And on top of that, as a broker, I look at it like this. Are my shippers asking for this, or are my carriers asking for this? Or am I thinking this just might be good for me to work on internally? So we're going to break all this down about building out your tech stack. And I want to welcome back Mr. Kyler Ford with Supply Wolf on the show. Kyler, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
Chris, it's great to be back, buddy. As you said, it's been way too long. So happy to be here.
No, dude, I same here. It's, you know, it's been a while. And, you know, I remember when we first met back, you know, it's been like, you know, literally with like most people, it's been like 6 years now. And, you know, you've been on the tech side and you've been doing that. You've been living it before. I mean, before freight tech was sexy, you were on that, right? Yeah. And it's like now it's becoming more and more of a thing. But like, dude, with Supply Wolf, what brought you to this point where you're like, I'm going to go out there and I want to do this?
Yeah, I mean, the kind of crux of the whole story was, you know, having been in this space for a little over a decade now, which it seems kind of crazy. And to your point, before freight tech was even really a category and or thing we talked about, right? You know, I've been on the sales side for so long and been part of some really great organizations and worked with hundreds and actually thousands of, you know, brokerages, carriers, and worked with shippers along the way. And there just seemed to be, like, there's a lot of noise, right, relative to solutions and services and all sorts of things. And we're all kind of going after these same types of folks. And I wanted to help clean that up, both for the buyer, which is the user, right, whether it's a broker or a carrier or a shipper, or even and then also for the vendor side, right? Help them clear up some of the folks that they need to get to more specifically that they could really help solve some problems for. You know, I could tell you tons of war stories, but there are many times I've been working in organizations that were well established, and you'd meet with someone and they'd say, Kylie, I didn't know you guys did that. And I'm like, that's all we do. You know, like that's all, you know, that's what we've been doing. And I think because they get it, they're getting it from all angles, right? They're getting an email, they're getting hit up on LinkedIn, they're seeing people at trade shows, you know, and their capacity for attention, and like any of us, right, is only so much. So our goal was really from day one to help clean up those kind of early discussions. We'll kind of get into some of that, but really, you know, the goal of it is Supply Wolf is a decision-making platform for software, solutions, and services. So not just, you know, just for software, it's for the solutions you need to run your business, and also kind of older, you know, services like, you know, your legal and your insurance and all of those things that kind of run through your organization. It's that one-stop place that you can go and find a tailored fit. So it's really taken not just discovery, but putting fit and decision-making and tying those two together quicker, because one, it helps the organization, right, not draw out and waste a lot of time in the early part of that decision, but also it helps the vendor too, right? Like they want to move on and help you get a solution and move on to the next one too. So it's really that ecosystem that we're trying to tie together a little bit cleaner.
No, I mean, you're hitting so many pain points, just like what I've gone through internally here at my company, because it's like there's so much stuff that's out there, Kyler. And again, I don't fault any company for not wanting to work with smaller brokerages, for example, right? They all want to go after the same large logos that are out there. And I personally, like, you know, again, it's like I also take a step back and I look like the failure rate in business is extremely high. So like I understand why not wanting to go down that route, but I also look at the cost of what it takes to build a SaaS product in today's environment is a fraction of what it was just a couple of years ago. I mean, if you have any basic understanding of, Gemini or ChatGPT, like a lot of this stuff can code, right? So it's like that whole part is being flipped upside down. So it's like, I think you guys are hitting the market at such a crucial time for providers of all sizes, because it's like the cost of freight tech that, because that's been the biggest hurdle, I think, for a lot of, businesses out there. It's just like, there's a running joke behind the scenes is any AI product is like, oh, AI, $5,000 every month. That's what it's going to cost you, $5,000. And it's like, that's a literal, that's a salary right there that we're talking about. And I look at with like the cost of it, it's only going to get cheaper, I think. In theory, it should only get cheaper because it's going to completely flip upside down on how a lot of this is done. So it's like for you guys to have this platform in place where you can narrow down your decision making, right? Like, hey, I need X, Y, and Z tool. And then you can actually, if you want to set up a demo, you can set up the right two companies as opposed to the spray and pray of, hey, there's 9 companies here that all have .ai. I'm going to set up a demo with all of them and see if that, if this is the one.
Yeah, 100%. And, I was a consultant for a company that's about $20 billion. And, the decision-making was around, some telematics and some things. And the process took almost 10 months. And it was very thorough and it was very comprehensive. It had a lot of vendors included in that process. But honestly, like if you were to go back in time, right, a lot of those people I think would have wanted the time back in their day versus like continuously meeting and kind of over exhausting RFPs and different hundreds of line items of questions to see, capabilities, where, our goal was to utilize our platform to make that initial kind of reduction of options pretty quick and get you to that theoretical 10-yard line, right? And let you really get focused and dive in on those, last 3 or so, and then get a quicker decision. Because ultimately, I think what every vendor wants, or at least theoretically they want, is to get these things applied so you can see the benefits from them, right? Not just so you can pay for them. And again, as salespeople, you mentioned it early on, we're all a little selfish of people's time, right? Chris, I need you for the discovery call. Chris, I need you for the demo. Chris, I need you to talk about pricing. Chris, I need a follow-up call. And you're like, Kyler, I got some freight to book, man. I got things going on other than you and your schedule. And I go, I know, but like I really just would love to spend, get some time with you. So it's really hard, right? And I think like I've talked to a CIO of a really large brokerage a while ago, and he said, if I took every 15-minute request that I got, right, could I just have 15 minutes of your time? He's like, my whole week would be booked all the time. So the goal kind of came back to that pain point, as well as just like, how can we clean this up and make it a little bit faster for everyone? With TIA coming up, right, this is a good example, right? I love these trade shows, right? You and I have built great relationships. There's, dozens and thousands of other people who've met folks in person, and that kind of changed their dynamic of how they work together, or just their personal or professional relationship, right? But because of that, we get so caught up. If I'm planning on going through the exhibit floor to see certain people or maybe check out a new product, I get interrupted because I see you. And I'm like, hey, Chris, let's go get caught up. And now I've kind of diverted my efforts of what I kind of planned to do. So in that case, we want a place where people, they get all this hype from a trade show. They come back and go, oh man, I didn't get a chance to check out Revanova, for example, right, on your thing here. And I'm going to go in and kind of dive in to see what's new. And also to your point about AI, there might be something that Revanova didn't have last week, but they have it this week because it's changing so fast and their capabilities are a lot faster today. So, and then the other part of it, to your mentioning of running the organization, is, you might come in on Monday and it's the end of the quarter, and you say, like, let's just take a quick glimpse of like, what are we using, right? What are we using? What are we not using in our tech stack? And we pull up the tech stack analysis in Supply Wolf and say, these are our 8 things that we use as a brokerage that are really helpful, that either the shipper needs or we require internally. Where's the overlap exist? What are some new features? Maybe we can get rid of one. Maybe we want to add a new one, right, that didn't exist before. So I think, the key for us was always like, let's streamline these things and make sure you have a good pulse, because otherwise you're just kind of these gaps between trade shows and organizations, which are great, But a lot of things change between TIA at the beginning of the year and TIA at the end of the year, right? Like we're fast moving now. So it's not kind of like we'll check out the updates at the end of the year, right? Those sprints are happening as we speak.
No, and I was going to bring up my next question, right? About doing like an audit or, that redundancy check out there. Like as a bootstrap founder, dude, I'm constantly looking at my P&L. I'm constantly asking my team, are you actually using this, right? Because it doesn't matter. Like I look at expenses of all sizes for my business, whether it's a $30 a month subscription fee or a $300 a month subscription fee. Are we actually using this? Because if we don't need it, let's cancel it. Let's move on. And then especially now, it's like with all of these upgrades that a lot of these freight tech companies are putting out there, and this is across the spectrum here. Are you now paying for similar services? Which one is better? Which one is best fit? And you have to be doing that because it's like, I look at with where things are in the freight market as well, where it's like margins are going to continue to get compressed here on the broker side, right? Like I'm actually shocked at the amount of people who are not talking about this at all. And it just kind of like, I don't know if they just assume that they're going to be able to go back to their customers and the customers are just going to immediately give you rate increases on everything. But there's going to be a compression period here and people are going to be looking at their P&L with a scalpel, essentially. What can we cut? How do we stay? Like, how do we actually manage through this so we're not losing money here? And it's like, I had a really good friend of mine who's the CFO of a really large broker. He had told me, he's like, Chris, he's like, you'd be shocked at the fact that it's not the large expenses that are killing your organization. It's the small subscriptions that a lot of people overlook. He's like, it's death by 1,000 cuts syndrome, because he's like, if it's got 3, 4, 5 figures on your P&L, you notice that stuff. He's like, you really don't notice the $40 here, the $70 there. And when he told me that a few years ago, I was like, I got to dive into my P&L. What am I spending money on that I don't need to?
Right. 100%. And I think too, you mentioned earlier about, historically folks are going after large logos. I think part of this too is like, there's a disconnect. It's just hard, right, to put certain messaging on your website that relates to kind of all the things that you do clearly without saying we do everything, right? It's just hard. It's a hard marketing tactic. So I feel for, the people out there doing it. I don't think they're doing it on purpose. But alignment in terms of like, if you are $1 million brokerage, right, this is kind of where you need to maybe think about solutions that are like for you at this point versus, $1 billion brokerage, right? But we've built the supply wolf, hopefully, with the capability that you can go in as either of those people or in between and navigate such that you get matched up to ones that are for you. So you don't imagine going to a trade show, right? Like a manifest or something big, right? And you walk in the floor and above each booth is like basically saying, Chris, these are for you, right? Like this one, probably not for you. Like you don't have a warehouse that needs robotics. So navigate back here to me. I know you're approaching $100 million this year in revenue. These are some unique tools that other people of that size and shape kind of utilize. And what we did by doing that was we built out these personas. Because again, any site you go to, you're like, where do I go? Like, this is cool, but I don't know where I start. Well, we built out personas for brokers, for forwarders, for shippers, for manufacturers. So one, if you're not that tech savvy and you go there and you're assigned as an organization to say, Chris, go find us the next, AI solution for X or whatever the case is. You're like, all right, I'll do it. And I go to SpyWolf and I go, well, at least one thing I know I'm a broker. So I'm going to start there. Right. And I go there and I can see kind of what that looks like, the ecosystem of all the solutions categorized correctly and mapped out correctly. Because what's nice about that is if I am a smaller or mid-sized broker, I can say like, oh, well, we don't have those things, but maybe we don't need them. That's why we don't have them yet. Right. But it's nice to know that those are kind of custom templates of some larger organizations that we do maybe plan to be one day or not be, right? Depending what you want to do. And like that kind of gives you the structure. I think it's really great for a startup person in the space, right? They can go and say, well, this is what the road ahead looks like. But also even for the folks at some really mature, large organizations, they can take a look and go, I never heard of those two solutions, right? Otherwise, you kind of see them at shows, you see their logo pop up. And honestly, like if you don't have time to dig in and find out, which a lot of them don't, right? They're running big organizations. They have a lot of people that report to them. It's hard to kind of dive in. And kind of where that hit home for me was I have a lot of private equity and different people reach out to me about solutions all the time, right? And they're like, what do you think about these guys? And there'll be logos, Chris, that I'll know the founder because they came from somewhere else, right? I'll know about them a little bit, but I can't describe in a clean sentence or two what they do. And I just thought to myself, if I can't do that, how do I expect the VP of operations or the CIO, CTO of XYZ brokerage or pick your carrier, right, to know what they do? And so it's like my job to be like, let's give them the leg up here and take out that and kind of articulate clearly what they do so they can decide if it's for them or not, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's exactly it, because it's like there's so many options right now for automation, for any tech tool that is out there in any industry. And it's like for you to be able to build that profile out and have those preferences, right? Like, hey, we're looking for X, Y, and Z for our business. And, because it's like you could literally spend weeks, and I'm not even over exaggerating this, filtering through everything just to get to a demo, just to find out, oh yeah, we actually don't build that. We don't have that yet. It's on, and then it's on our roadmap. So it's like, okay, so a year and a half from now, we're looking at like, I need this stuff today. And again, it's like, this is that, you brought up the decision-making tool. That's where like where my mind goes is like, dude, I can hyper focus in where it's like, this is the main thing I'm looking for in my business. Boom, go to Supply Wolf, fill out that. And then it lists out 5 companies that actually do what you're looking for, because I think that, that's been one of the biggest hurdles, where, inside of our business, again, like we're small, right? Like there's 4 of us on my team. We're building everything out. We're at that point where we're like, do we have to build some of this stuff? Do we have to figure out how to build some of this stuff on our own? Because it's like, we need it today.
Yeah.
It's not available in the market right now. Or if it is available in the market, we're too small for them, or it's too expensive. We can't, we can't justify spending that right now. And it's like to be able to do that and hone that in, and to get, and like to, you brought up the trade show example as well. To know if you're going to TIA Capital Ideas here next week, you got the 5 vendors that you need to talk to, and you have that down. I mean, you can, that's another ROI too, because it's like, how many people go to trade shows, walk around kind of aimlessly, and especially if you've never been to one before, you don't know the lay of the land, you're going to, again, I want to talk and meet everybody as well, but it's like, you have to get an ROI out of some of these events, whether it's, at a conference or you're filtering through a lot of these providers during your workday. You can only invest so much time. You have to be more, dialed in is the only way I can think of here, because otherwise you're going to miss out on that opportunity.
Yeah. And I think too, to your point, if you've never been to one, or if you've been to one, or sometimes, you got to pick and choose, right? Like things come up. I'm about ready to have my 4th child here later today. I'm actually going to the hospital from here.
Jesus.
So things come up, right? And like, I was going to be going to Modex next week, and now I had to change those plans. My co-founder, Anthony Greco, will be at TIA next week, so yeah, things come up, right? And if that were the plan for you and I to meet, or another vendor to meet, like things change, and therefore now like things have been altered. And to your point, like if it's first time there, you may have seen a solution 5 years ago, or 3 years, 2 years ago, right? And kind of maybe you discounted them, whether you couldn't afford it then, whether you didn't like some sort of UI about that. Well, you know what? Things have changed, right? Like they're still in the market. They're still getting customers. So to know those changes, to know that, hey, it's worth going back and visit them, because it's really easy to say like, nah, I've seen them. I know what they're about. I'm going to keep moving on. It's like, well, maybe, but also maybe not. And why would you kind of like not like understand that? You probably didn't have the time to do the research ahead of time. So I agree. It's really helpful heading into one. It's also really helpful even when you come back, because you're like, I didn't have time. I did have a lot of great meetings. It was a great 2 days in Phoenix, Arizona, but I took some notes, and now I'm going to jump back on Supply Wolf to do that. And one thing we've done a little differently than some other providers that are not specific. You'll kind of hear me say this a lot out on the ecosystem when I'm talking about Supply Wolf, is we are supply chain centric. What does that mean? It's supply chain, transportation, logistics. That's what we do, because we understand the dynamics involved in making those decisions, right? And that's a little different than a G2 or a Capterra or a software advice, which does every type of solution, that you can imagine. And where that becomes helpful is like, if you're going to implement a new TMS, but you have some other solutions, you need to know what they integrate with, right? where I was going with it too is we don't do reviews, because I found it hard as a salesperson to say, well, Chris, my solution's 4.6 stars and yours is 4.5. So therefore, you should probably pick mine. And you're like, Kyler, I'm not going to pick it on 0.5 and 0.6. Like, that's not how we make decisions. So we've really invested a lot of time on real reviews, which is talking to people who, as a vendor, you've worked your tail off to get testimonials and white papers, all these things on your website. We've brought them to life to where people can interact with those folks in an easier way. Because honestly speaking, there is probably some rough roads out of the gate, right, for most of them. And they're not afraid to share it, but they're also willing to say, like, look, once we got past that, or maybe we would have done it differently looking back, then people can have the right frame of mind to make a decision, right, as to what they're thinking about. Because as much as they like hearing it from a salesperson, right, or from the organization themselves, we exist as Supply Wolf to be that third party kind of intermediary to say, hey, look, we've vetted them ourselves. Yeah. We've talked to the customers. This is accurate as what they're proposing. So, make whatever decision you want, but don't believe that slick sales guy. I know he's pretty convincing, or she's pretty convincing, but like we're validating that for them.
How, like with all of that, you're talking about the validation aspect of things. How are you guys going about, data security and cybersecurity? Because that's something that I think a lot of people don't think about in the moment, is, hey, if I'm going to be running all of my company's information and, and if somehow this is connected with my customers direct depositing money into ARC, like, is there, like, how are you protecting that ecosystem? And, again, I am a massive fan of cybersecurity now. Shout out to my friends at the NMFTA. I've been going to their cybersecurity conference for 5 years. And I'm like, that's my first thought on everything now is how do you protect the technical infrastructure of your company? So it's like, are you guys taking that angle? Have you guys done a lot of that work?
It's interesting you say that, because we don't take any transactions as a theoretical marketplace as you would think of like an Expedia or something like that. So we do have some partnerships with some buy now, pay later people that we're going to be implementing later this year to try and help some folks along the way, with our factoring background, both Anthony and I kind of understand the component. But to your point, I think, and for personal reasons, I'm pretty connected to some large cybersecurity organizations, and I'm huge on it because we also offer that as like a service in addition to where you would think, all right, I'm on this platform, I'm looking for tracking, TMS, WMS, all these things, right? But we also have solution providers on there with cybersecurity. So because we've seen some of the large carriers and brokers, right, have had incidences where they've had some breaches. So we are pushing those types of solutions to people, and push is a way of getting them in front of them to say that, like, maybe as a broker, you never thought of this, right? Like, you're thinking about it, but maybe someone else is like, no, we have everything in place. We would never think about getting cybersecurity unless our like insurance provider or someone, was offering cyber, liability insurance or something. But these are the types of solutions we're also saying, like, in your tech stack, because I think if you look back years ago, probably a large brokerage didn't have a Salesforce or a HubSpot, right? As a CRM, they just didn't think they needed. They should Excel or do it in their TMS, right? But now they do. And now you add in a layer of cybersecurity in that as well, because we've being in a payments background, we understand both from a identity situation and the things that you share as a user, as well as the vendor's information. Like we do our at epicenter where things start getting pretty detailed. So we have a really strong grasp on that, and spent a lot of time from day one building the foundational infrastructure to manage that and be at scale. Because as we continue to add vendors every single day, more and more information is comprised into us, and we're super sensitive to that, as you can imagine, right? Because anything you're buying or evaluating, you're also like saying, I'd like to know kind of where it costs, right? Because you mentioned it, right? Like, I love that. That's great. Kind of how much does it cost? Does it fit in our budget? So we have to be very, sensitive to that, as well as what we share, what we don't share. And we leave that up to the vendor or the customer to see, and then try to give as much visibility into that to the users we can. So at least they can make, budgeting decisions and understand which one fits into their level at that given time. So, but it's a great point, and I think it can't be said enough. And probably a lot of people, if polled, if we sent one out, would say they are not fully confident in the way that their cybersecurity is structured today, right?
No, I agree. Do you think, and I'm asking you this not even as it's just kind of like your tech background inside of the industry. Do you think that in the next couple of years, there's going to be not a consolidation of companies buying each other, but like, do you think it's going to be so much easier to develop products, and there's going to be there's going to be like a one size fits all, like it's going to have all your payable, like your factoring in that platform. It's going to have your tracking. It's going to have, integrations in with the FMCSA, so you can do all your carrier vetting. Do you think that is where it's going to be? And that's kind of the direction of where things are heading.
I definitely think there'll be consolidation, because I think there'll be areas where, as a company, you might say, we're thinking about doing this also, right? In the past, and this would require, to your point, a lot of engineering investment, depending how you're capitalized. Your venture capital partner or your private equity partner may say, we're not in for that, right? We're kind of in for what we do really well. And I think those capabilities will exist and allow you to expand and do more things. I still think, though, like for a while, I don't know, given time frame, that it's going to create some new ones that handle workflows that probably weren't able to be handled before, which, yes, will become some consolidation, but in itself will create a new subcategory potentially, right? So with reduction, I think will also come some addition of some things that you weren't able to do before, right? Because of the integrations that lack, because of the data that wasn't available. So I think some people are going to pop up, and they might be proposed as consolidating, but they're really adding a new solution to the market that either is applicable maybe across more verticals, right? Maybe you're not just proposing something that's for freight forwarder anymore. Maybe that same solution through automation is able to be utilized for broker, because the customizations or the tailored pieces of that workflow are pretty easy to do. Okay, so now it's applicable across both, which is great, right? For some companies who, you'd ask them if they do multiple different things, if they've got warehousing, they have a brokerage, they do some forwarding, right? You'll say, well, we have 3 different TMSs, right? And you're like, that seems like a lot to manage. And they're like, it is a lot to manage, right? Where in this case, now I think that'll break down some of that, right? Which I think is great. I think that makes a lot of sense, right? Why have 3 different ones to manage, and you have different people managing kind of old code, new code? So I think that leveling up will be really helpful for large organizations, and for even newer ones that are getting started. I think they can get off the ground and running really quickly with some new stuff.
Yeah. I think the biggest point that I'm taking away from what you just said there, most importantly, is there is going to be industries and that we aren't even aware of that are going to come out of this tech revolution or evolution that we're currently going through, right? Like, yes, AI is very, very present, very, very real, but it's nowhere near its like actual capabilities. And it's like, I look at yes, is there going to be some jobs that aren't going to exist anymore because AI can do it? Yeah. But what is going to be created from this, and what opportunities are going to come along with it, right? Like that's the optimism in my brain with a lot of this is, I like to say I'm an optimistic realist, and it's true. Like I'm very real at the fact that like there's going to be a lot of disruption that comes in a lot of traditional industries that most people never thought were going to happen. But there's going to be another side of this, of what industries and jobs are going to be created from this that we aren't even aware of right now. And that's where I think a lot of things are going. And that's why I'm like, dude, you guys are at the right spot at the right time with this, because that is where you guys are going to be sitting here for the foreseeable future, right? Like you're going to be getting ahead of it. You're going to be testing those new technologies specifically inside of freight and seeing that, and you're going to be able to bring that to a lot of your guys' clients. So I really love what you guys are doing, man.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah. And that the AI revolution that you're talking about is pulling a lot of data from our platform already. And those things that you're spitting out through these different organizations and mechanisms, they're being fed by folks like us. So we're really excited about it. I think there's a lot that can be done.
Perfect. Kyler, how does anybody reach out to you guys to find out more about what you got going on?
Yeah, please go follow us on LinkedIn, go to a website and play around with the different tools at supplywolf.com. Like I said, we'll be at TIA. We'll be at pretty much every industry conference you can imagine. So if you see a blue shirt and myself or my co-founder or some of the other folks on the team, please stop and talk. And if you're a vendor out there, reach out. We'd love to interact with you more.
Perfect. I love it. Kyler, thank you so much. If you guys can't find Kyler or Supply Wolf out there, hit me up. I will gladly put you guys in direct contact with them. But that is going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard and you're not subscribed, subscribe to the show, you guys. And if you're feeling ambitious, rank it on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out money.